The deep silence of space was shattered as alarms blared throughout the Zenith Defense Outpost. Crimson lights flashed against the dark metal walls while alien crew members scrambled to their stations. On the central screen, a single glowing dot appeared in a place where nothing should have been. It was moving fast, too fast, and it didn't match any recognized Zenith signatures. "Alert! Unknown vessel detected in restricted space," the station's AI announced in its rhythmic voice. "Analysis confirms Terran warship design." Commander Vorin slammed his three-clawed hand onto the control panel. "Humans? Here? In the most secure sector of Zenith space? That's impossible." The closest Terran border was nearly 50 light-years away. His crimson scales rippled in agitation as he watched the vessel's energy readings spike. Aboard the Terran warship TSV Valor, the situation was no calmer. Captain Elias gripped the arms of his command chair as warning lights blazed across the bridge. The ship's sudden emergence from the wormhole had sent half the crew tumbling to the floor. "Status report," Elias barked over the commotion. His face, lined with 20 years of service, remained firm, though his steel-gray eyes scanned the chaos with unwavering focus. "Bad news, sir," Lieutenant Carter called out from navigation, wiping away a thin trail of blood from his temple. "That wormhole wasn't supposed to be there. We're way off course. Scanners show we're deep inside Zenith-controlled territory." Elias felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The Zenith Dominion, the most powerful alien coalition in known space, and no ally to humanity. The Valor carried classified defense data crucial to Earth's colonies. If the Zenith forces seized it, the consequences would be catastrophic. More bad news followed. "Captain," Officer Vega reported from Tactical, her fingers moving swiftly over holographic controls. 3 Zenith patrol ships just appeared on long-range sensors. They're closing in fast." Elias didn't hesitate. Survival in deep space belonged to those who acted, not those who hesitated. "All hands to battle stations. Power up the stealth array, but hold off on activating it. Keep weapons on standby." The bridge crew moved with synchronized efficiency. The Valor, one of Earth's newest warships, was smaller than Zenith cruisers, but packed with cutting-edge experimental tech. If they played their cards right, they had a chance. Back at the Zenith station, Commander Vorin studied the human ship's erratic energy fluctuations with a growing sense of unease. The humans were up to something. But what? "Sir," an operator called out. "Incoming transmission from High Command. Supreme Admiral Zyron is assuming direct control of the operation." Vorin's scales pressed flat against his skull. The Admiral was infamous for his ruthless handling of intruders, especially humans. There would be no diplomacy here. On the Valor's bridge, Elias monitored the tactical display as the Zenith vessels moved with flawless precision. Too flawless. That gave him an idea. "Listen up," he addressed his officers. "Zenith forces always follow standard engagement patterns. They expect us to flee or surrender. Instead, we're going to do something unexpected." Carter smirked. "I like unexpected, sir. Beats getting captured." The stories of Zenith prison ships were infamous. No human had ever returned from them. Elias nodded grimly. "Here's the plan," he said, pointing at a dense asteroid field on the display. But before he could continue, a new alarm blared. A massive Zenith dreadnought had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, its shadow stretching over the Valor like a dark omen. On their screens, Admiral Zyron's face appeared, ashen-skinned, with piercing obsidian eyes. "Terran vessel," his deep translated voice echoed through their speakers. "You have trespassed into Zenith territory. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 1 standard minute to comply." Elias scanned his crew. Every face bore the same unyielding resolve. Surrender was not an option, not just for them, but for all of humanity. If the Zenith forces acquired the Valor's data core, it would spell disaster for Earth's defenses. Battle stations, Elias said calmly. Let's show them why humans are the most unpredictable species in the galaxy. The bridge of the Valor fell silent as Zyron's ultimatum ticked down. 40 seconds. Elias had to make them count. Sir, Vega whispered from tactical, her brows furrowing. I'm picking up unusual energy signatures from their fleet. Their weapons aren't fully charged. They're in the middle of a maintenance cycle. Elias smirked. Finally, a stroke of luck. The Zenith, for all their technological superiority, had a single fatal flaw: their arrogance. They never expected their enemies to notice small details. Transmit a surrender message, Elias ordered, stunning his crew. But hide our true plan in the background radiation. The Zenith fleet held formation as the message went out. Aboard his flagship, Admiral Zyron watched with satisfaction as the human ship's power levels dropped. The Terrans are learning their place, he muttered. Prepare the boarding teams. I want their data core intact. But something felt off. Watching from his post, Commander Voren saw strange fluctuations in the Valor's energy readings. His instincts screamed a warning. Admiral! He started, but it was too late. The Valor's failing power core suddenly surged, not with weapons fire, but with an electromagnetic burst, precisely tuned to disrupt Zenith shield harmonics. In an instant, the Zenith fleet's shields flickered and collapsed. Now, Elias shouted, full power to engines. Thread the needle. The Valor's engines roared as it dove straight between two Zenith battlecruisers. Are they insane? Zyron roared as he watched the human ship maneuver in ways no vessel that size should be capable of. But the Valor could. Its smaller frame, paired with advanced modifications, allowed it to outmaneuver anything the Zenith had ever encountered. As the human ship weaved through the Zenith formation, the larger alien vessels struggled to adjust, inadvertently blocking each other's firing solutions. They're using our own fleet as cover, Voren realized in astonishment. They're forcing us to break formation. Release the probes, Elias commanded. Let's give them a distraction. Dozens of decoy beacons erupted from the Valor's hull, each mimicking its power signature. The Zenith sensors, still reeling from the EMP attack, couldn't distinguish the real ship from the fakes. Multiple Terran ships detected, a Zenith officer shouted. They're everywhere! Admiral Zyron clenched his fists as his trap unraveled before his eyes. The Valor, or one of its clones, was heading toward the asteroid field. But which was the real one? If he split his forces to chase them all, he would lose control of the sector. Amid the chaos, Elias allowed himself a small smile. Phase 2 had worked, but the real test lay ahead. The Valor plunged into the asteroid field, its crew bracing for what came next. Hold on, Elias said, gripping the armrest of his chair. Things are about to get interesting. I can set them to trigger a chain reaction in the asteroid field. Might buy us time. Might also kill us all, Carter muttered, his eyes never leaving the navigation console. Do it, Elias ordered. They were running out of options. The remaining Zenith scouts were adapting to the asteroid field faster than he had anticipated. The next few minutes were tense as Dave's engineering team worked, while the Valor weaved through the chaotic maze, using larger asteroids for cover. Every few seconds, another mining charge was jettisoned from the ship's rear hatches, each one blending into the debris around them. 2 Zenith scouts still trailing us, Vega reported. They're getting better at predicting our course adjustments. Elias studied the tactical display. The mining charges now formed a scattered trail behind them, a trap waiting to spring. He waited until the enemy ships were in just the right position. Now, Dave. The first detonation was minor, barely noticeable against the vast darkness. But it nudged one asteroid off its course. That asteroid clipped another, which hit another. Within moments, a cascade of collisions rippled through the field. The Zenith scouts, too focused on their pursuit, didn't notice the impending disaster until it was too late. The first scout managed to veer off, but its ship's safety protocols froze its engines. The second one attempted to power through, a fatal mistake. A rock the size of a battle cruiser slammed into it, obliterating the vessel. "It worked!" Vega exclaimed. "The Zenith forces are falling back." "Wait, Captain, I'm detecting something strange. There's an artificial structure deep in the field, and it's transmitting a signal." Elias leaned forward. The signal was weak, transmitted on an outdated frequency most modern ships wouldn't even register. But he recognized the pattern, a distress call, one that hadn't been used in over 50 years. "Change of plans," he announced. "We're checking it out." "Sir," Carter protested, "the Zenith fleet will regroup soon. This is our chance to escape." Elias shook his head. Something about the signal felt important. His instincts had kept him alive this long, and right now they were telling him that this was no accident. "Take us in," he ordered, "but be ready for anything. Something tells me we're about to find out why this sector is so restricted." The Valor drifted silently through a narrow passage between two massive asteroids. Running lights were dimmed, engines barely providing enough thrust to maneuver. As they closed in, the signal strengthened. "There." Carter pointed at the main view screen. "Inside that crater." The crater was deep, carved into an asteroid larger than most cities. Within its shadows, the faint outline of an artificial structure emerged. It was old, its metallic surface scarred from decades of micrometeorite impacts. "Life signs?" Elias asked, his voice instinctively hushed, despite knowing sound couldn't travel in space. Vega checked her sensors. "Faint, but yes, at least 30 life forms inside, and Captain—" She hesitated. "Their power readings match those of old rebel bases from the Zenith border wars." Silence fell across the bridge. Everyone knew about the border wars. 50 years ago, multiple alien species had tried to break free from Zenith rule. The rebellion failed, and the Zenith ensured no one ever heard from them again. Or so they had thought. "We're being scanned," Dave reported. "Old tech, but still functional. They definitely know we're here." Elias made his decision. "Open a channel. Let's hope they're still willing to talk." Before he could speak, a voice crackled through the speakers, rough, like someone who hadn't spoken much in years. "Terran vessel, power down your weapons and prepare for docking. Any hostile action will be met with immediate destruction." "Friendly bunch," Carter muttered. Following a series of blinking guide lights, the Valor entered the crater. As they approached, the structure revealed itself to be far larger than they had first assumed. Much of it was built directly into the asteroid. A massive hangar door groaned open, rusted, slow, but still operational. Inside, the hangar was cavernous. It could have once housed a fleet, but now only 2 aged fighter craft rested within. "Those are Striker-class interceptors," Vega said in disbelief. "They haven't been manufactured in 40 years. How are they still operational?" As the Valor touched down, their hosts made their appearance. A group of aliens stood by the airlock, clad in patched-up environment suits, their gear repaired and re-repaired over the years. One figure stepped forward as Elias and 2 security officers disembarked. "I am Commander Rael," the alien said through a translator. Despite his name, his movements were slow, deliberate, like someone carrying the weight of a long war. "Welcome to Haven Base. But I must ask, why did you follow our signal?" Elias studied Rael carefully. His species was unfamiliar, tall and slender with gray-blue skin and 4 arms. But what caught Elias's attention were his eyes, the eyes of someone who had seen too much war. "We were looking for a way to escape Zenith pursuit," Elias explained. "We found your signal by accident, but now I'm starting to think maybe it wasn't an accident at all." Rael nodded slowly. "The Zenith. Always the Zenith. Come with me, Captain. There's something you need to see." Haven Base was a relic of another time. The corridors were dimly lit by failing emergency lights, casting eerie red glows on the walls. The deeper they went, the more Elias realized the base was more than just a hideout. It was a stronghold, a last bastion of a war thought long lost. The inhabitants, gathered from at least 5 different species, watched the humans with wary curiosity. Some looked hopeful, others doubtful. Rael led them into a control center filled with outdated computer terminals. Star maps covered the walls, with certain sectors marked in red. "For 50 years we have hidden," Rael said, "gathering intelligence, waiting for a chance to finish what we started." He turned to Elias. "And now, a Terran warship appears in our sector, carrying technology that outmaneuvers Zenith fleets." He let the words hang before finishing. "You want our help?" "We want to make a deal," Rael corrected. "You need to escape. We need your ship's tactical data on Zenith vulnerabilities. Together we might both get what we want." Before Elias could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. A rebel officer burst into the room, his 4 arms tense. "Zenith ships," he reported. "They're scanning the sector. Different pattern than usual. They must have found a way to track the Valor's energy signature." Rael turned to Elias, his expression grim. "It seems, Captain, that you must make your decision quickly. The Zenith will find us soon." Elias studied the tactical display. The Zenith ships were moving with surgical precision, thorough, methodical, exactly what he would expect. But maybe that was also their weakness. "How long have you been monitoring their communications?" Elias asked. "Years," Rael answered. "We've cracked most of their codes, but it hasn't mattered. They're too powerful." Dave suddenly perked up, eyes gleaming with reckless excitement. "Maybe we don't need to fight their ships, Captain. Remember how we disrupted their shields earlier?" Elias nodded, seeing where this was going. "You think we can do something bigger?" Dave grinned. "Much bigger." "It's possible?" A young rebel burst into the control room. "Zenith ships have altered their course. They're accelerating through the asteroid field. We have less time than we thought." Elias looked at his crew, then at the rebels who had hidden here for so long, waiting for a moment like this. There was no time left for hesitation. "Everyone knows their role," he said firmly. "We move in 6 hours. Get ready." As the others rushed to prepare, Rael lingered. "Your crew is willing to risk everything for strangers," he observed. "Why?" Elias thought of Earth, of the colonies under constant Zenith threat, of all the species that had lost their freedom. "Because that's what humans do," he answered. "We fight for what's right, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." In 6 hours, they would either change the course of the galaxy or die trying, and somehow those odds felt just about right. The next 6 hours blurred into a frenzy of preparation. The rebels' aging fighter craft had been fitted with Dave's modified communications disruptors. The Valor's systems were tuned to peak efficiency. Everyone understood the stakes. Everyone knew the cost of failure. "Zenith ships are initiating their celebration protocols," Vega reported from the rebel base, where she would coordinate the entire mission. "Their defense grid is powering down for maintenance. This is our window." Elias stood on the bridge of the Valor, watching final preparations. Most of his crew remained aboard, but Dave had joined the rebel strike teams. His expertise was critical in placing the disruption devices. "All teams, report status." "Ready," Rael's voice came through the comms. He was leading the fighter squadron personally. Despite his years in hiding, he had insisted on flying this mission himself. Elias addressed the fleet. "Timing is everything. The Zenith believe their technology makes them untouchable. Let's prove them wrong." The Valor moved first, emerging from the asteroid field and presenting itself like an irresistible target to Zenith patrols. Alarms erupted across the sector as Supreme Admiral Zyron's fleet detected them. "Terran vessel," Zyron's voice rang across all frequencies. "All ships, converge and destroy them. They cannot escape again." Elias allowed himself a small smirk. Zyron was reacting exactly as expected, with overwhelming force and singular focus on the Valor. No one noticed the faint power fluctuations near their communication relays. Space exploded into chaos. Zenith warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, forming an unbreakable net around the Valor. Their coordination was precise, their formation perfect. "Now, Rail!" The rebel fighters struck from the shadows of the asteroid belt. Their ships were ancient compared to Zenith vessels, but their pilots had spent decades learning every trick, every weakness in Zenith tactics. "First device planted," Rail reported as his fighter weaved through enemy fire. "Moving to the second relay." The Zenith formation crumbled as ships struggled to react to multiple threats. But they still couldn't ignore the Valor, not with its valuable data core. "Their network defenses are stabilizing," Vega warned from the base. "We have 10 minutes before they restore full coordination." Elias pushed the Valor into impossible maneuvers, keeping the Zenith fleet's attention locked on them. Then 3 quick pulses flashed across the comm, a signal from Dave. The devices were in place. "All ships, clear the area," Elias ordered. "Trigger the sequence." The overload began slowly. Zenith communication relays flickered. Then the chain reaction Dave had predicted surged through the system. Each relay amplified the disruption, sending it to the next. "Their network is crashing," Vega's excited voice filled the comms. "Zenith ships are losing contact with each other." The mighty Zenith fleet collapsed into confusion. Without their synchronized communications, they couldn't coordinate their movements. Ships fired blindly, some even striking their own allies. Zyron's orders went unheard. For the first time in history, the Zenith were fighting in chaos. "All ships return to base," Elias commanded. "Mission accomplished." But Zyron wasn't finished. His dreadnought surged through the battlefield, weapons locked onto the Valor. "You think you've won, Terran?" His voice crackled through backup channels. "I'll destroy you myself." The dreadnought's main cannon began charging. At this range, not even the Valor's advanced shields could withstand a direct hit. But Zyron had made a fatal mistake. In his fury, he had forgotten. He wasn't fighting just one ship anymore. Rail's squadron swept in from behind, their outdated weapons striking critical weak points in the dreadnought's armor. Then the Valor's sensors detected something incredible. More ships, dozens of them, emerging from hiding across the sector. Rebel cells, long thought lost, had seen the Zenith's weakness, and they were rising. "You're not alone anymore, Captain," Rail's voice came through the comm. "None of us are." Elias watched as the Zenith fleet retreated in disarray, their dreadnought barely limping away. The rebels had won their first victory. But more importantly, they had proven the Zenith were not invincible. 2 days later, Haven Base was more alive than it had been in decades. Ships arrived from across the sector, hidden rebel cells drawn out by the impossible news. The Zenith's iron grip had been broken, and hope was spreading faster than any quantum signal. Elias stood with Rail in the control room, watching the display as more ships emerged from hiding. Each one carried the same story of resistance, of a war reigniting after decades of silence. "Your ship's arrival changed everything," Rail said, his forearms making a slow, deliberate motion, a sign of deep emotion. "We had the knowledge, the determination, but we needed something else, a spark to light the fire." Elias nodded, but his mind was already on the next step. "We still need to get our data back to Earth. They need to know what's happening here. The Zenith won't stay beaten for long." As if on cue, long-range sensors detected Zenith reinforcements gathering at the sector's edges. The loss of Zyron's fleet had shaken them, but they had the resources to recover. They would return, and in greater numbers. Dave ran into the control room, his clothes smeared with engine grease. He had spent the last 2 days working with rebel engineers, helping them replicate the Valor's technology. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, holding up a data pad. "We cracked the Zenith's battle logs from the fight. There's something big here." Bigger than just military reports. The logs spoke of unrest, of Zenith colonies questioning their rule. The rebellion hadn't just won a battle. It had started a movement. "We've watched Earth for years," Rael said. "We saw how your people resisted the Zenith at your borders. You never gave up, even when outmatched." His voice was steady. "That's why we trusted you when you appeared. Because we knew humans would understand our fight." Vega's voice cut in over the comm. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from 6 other sectors. More rebel groups are rising, and they're asking for help." She paused. "They're asking for the humans." Elias looked at his crew. They were exhausted. Their uniforms still bore the scars of battle, but their eyes burned with purpose. "We need to split up," he decided. "Half of us take the Valor back to Earth with the data. The rest stay here. Help build this rebellion. Earth needs to know they have allies out here." Rael studied him carefully. "The Zenith will hunt you." Elias grinned. "Let them come. Humans are good at being stubborn." Hours later, as the Valor launched toward Earth, Elias watched from the base's viewport. Rael stood beside him. "What do we do now?" the rebel leader asked. Elias turned, his grin unwavering. Now we do what humans do best." He looked out into the stars where war was brewing. "We improvise, we adapt, and we never, ever give up." The war for freedom had begun, but this time the rebels weren't fighting alone.